Hey guys, this is Hunter Levine, and thank you for checking out the Captain's Collective podcast, brought to you by Skinny Water Culture, Florida Fishing Products, Turtle Box Audio, Costa Sunglasses, and Orvis Fly Fishing. Today we get a chance to do one of my favorite things, which is check out some of the lesser known parts of Florida. Today's guest, Captain Matt Cowart, has built a business in Cedar Key, which is an area that often gets overlooked. And in this podcast, he shares with us about how he's found his own unique approach to his fishery, which has led him to using some less known techniques to have some amazing results for redfish, snook, and a variety of other species. I love getting a chance to fish with guides like Matt because every time I get on their boat, I learn something new, and I find things that I can take with me to the next place. We really hope that you guys enjoy this podcast. If you do, please continue to share it with your friends. Thank you for listening. This is the Captain's Collective. Well, hey, Matt, thanks for today, dude. It was so good to finally have our schedules line up, come here to Cedar Key, which I've only fished, we were joking all day. I have some family history here, but I don't know anything about Cedar Key. I've only fished here one time in high school, and that was a little bit of a train wreck for me just because I was a high school kid running around not knowing what I was doing. But, man, we got great weather. I mean, that lined up too.
Perfect
and
weather.
Had an opportunity to go chase some snook, and I've been able to fish with a decent bit of guys so far, and I love getting a chance to see new places, see new approaches. And I can say today, with what you do with the snook, and I know you want to keep that to yourself because you've worked so hard to figure that out, but that to me was about as far from I probably would have figured that out, or I probably would have tried. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't think if I'm being honest, I don't think I probably would have done that. And so it's cool to see a whole new style of fishing, a whole new approach. It's neat to be able to go from snook where, as fun as it was when we switched over to triple tail, I was like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm ready to do something new, cover some coastline. Gosh, this is such a beautiful place and a really great community, and I'm just so grateful that you made some time for me to come down. We posted up here on this island. Trey and Vince, Stigura and Trey Michael are running around this island somewhere trying to catch something and trying to catch a buzz, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But man, thanks for coming down here, dude. Tell me a little bit about how you really first got into it all.
My family was just into fishing. My dad, I grew up, me and my brother, so we grew up just fishing with him, almost every weekend, So his dad, fished, my grandpa fished, my grandpa on my mom's side fished, my uncles fished.
All in this area, area?
Yeah, all in this area. The Big Bend, pretty much, Crystal River, Yankee Town, Waukesha, all the way up to Steenhatchee. Every little spot. We fished scallop, just did different things, just all, whatever was happening.
Yeah.
We had an airboat, so we'd go up in the creeks and cast net mullet and sheephead and whatever else, and fish those holes in the creeks in the wintertime. It was always something, something going on.
And you were telling me you and your brother had a little john boat. Could you tell me a little bit
Yeah, we
about
had
that?
this little john boat that, my dad bought us when we were young, and we just, kind of just explored every little inch of the coastline in this thing, beating it up, off oyster bars and rocks. It has so many holes we had patched, and we had rebuilt the deck on it several times, because it was just beat apart,
Mm-hmm. Was it like did y'all paddle that thing around? Or
no, it had a little 40 horse on it.
See, you were about 4 times the power I had when I was in high school, and I got my first boat, little 9 horsepower, and then I had, if you remember those little Go Devils, basically a weed whacker with a prop on the end, it moved about 2 miles an hour.
Oh yeah,
I had one of those, and it's funny though because I want to sit on that for a moment because I recorded a podcast with my dad, and I was talking about in the world that we live in today, so often people talk about saving money for college and putting your kids in college. Like, you got to be saving for college. You got to put your kids in college. I'm not trying to get into some sort of higher education debate. Nobody's asking me for that. But, when I look back at my life, my dad got me a little canoe, little River Hawk canoe, 14 feet. I had 2 little motors for it. And looking back, I think that's one of the most impactful, formative things that my parents ever wrote a check or gave cash or swiped a card for in my entire life. It's probably the greatest physical gift. I mean, for you, like in that season of life.
Yep. Same thing, that little John boat, you know.
Yeah. How did that impact you when you?
Oh man, I mean, it just gave me an option to go, you know, that we had, you know, we could take it to the sandbar and, you know, party, and, you know, the next day we'd take it, you know, 2 miles offshore, 3 miles offshore.
I had a little bit of a parameter with the canoe.
Yeah, no, my dad actually used to take us down to the boat ramp and drop me off at the boat ramp at like 6 or 7 in the morning. So, all right, be back here at 5 o'clock. And so, all right, I had a watch, and I just
How old were you?
fish all day. I was probably like 14.
Yeah.
13, 14. Yeah.
Was there a moment when you think back to those days that you felt like really just either was a huge confidence booster or paradigm shifter, or was there something impactful, that something you found, something that happened? Oh,
I mean, you come across stuff out there that you just can't believe you're seeing, you know.
Yeah.
I
Any stand out?
Yeah. So there was this time that the tarpon were here, just like nothing you've seen, just thousands. And so one day I just, you know, went out for the afternoon, drove out, you know, just kind of looking around, looking for bait, looking for birds, and I come up on this school of tarpon. They were just far as you could see, you know, and they were just blowing up on stuff, ladyfish, and just eating everything, you know. And I didn't have.
Yeah, you probably had a 2000.
Yeah, I had this little redfish rod. I mean, I remember the first one that I caught on a little mirror lure, and it just kept never slowed down. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I you know, we were talking earlier about there's, you know, a lot of people police kind of fish handling and things like that with tarpon, and I think depending on if somebody should have known better or did know better versus, you know, sometimes you're just a kid and you're 14 years old, dude. You don't know the law. You
got what you got. There's tarpon there, and you just.
And we were talking about how, you know, as far as fish handling goes, I mean, most of the time you never even almost, you know, I was down in the Virgin Islands, and I had a bonefish rig, and me and my wife stopped and we got some tacos in the first 5 minutes of being on the island, just tarpon, just cruising the beach. So I'm like, run back, get my rod out the rental. I go walk down to the beach, you know, get some cast on them, tried some different flies, and you know, boom, I hooked this like 90-pound tarpon on my bonefish rig. I mean, he jumps up, he turns his head one time, it's like, you know, blew my, I mean, I had a little leader on, you know, and as a kid, I'm sure you know, to you, that probably was just like, okay, now I can get a bite. Yeah. You might need to change some things.
That's right. So now I got a 4,000. I thought that was big, you know.
You got a bigger rattle trap. You just kept getting bigger and bigger rattle traps. Yeah. But for you, you know, when you think about being a kid, what was your, if you know, it sounds like you had a pretty holistic upbringing, which I'm grateful I had that too. But was there something that drew you to saltwater? Why salt?
Bigger fish. You know, more fish, bigger fish. You know, yeah, you can go catch bass in the river, you know, but it's bass, you know. I had nothing wrong with bass fishing. I like to, you know, bass fish whenever, but the salt just has so many more options. Yeah. You know, like you could catch a tarpon at any time, you know, or cobia or triple tail or, you know, trout, redfish. It's so much stuff.
Yeah, there's just different seasons where stuff's migrating through, and you know, different tides that open up different opportunities, and for sure bigger fish. I think that's a lot of people's answer, because if we walk back to a bass pond right now and I caught a 10-pound bass, we'd all be hooting and hollering. Yeah. But today, if we would have caught a 10-pound snook, it would have been like,
yeah, we caught 10. That was a small one.
You know. Yeah. But tell me about, how does a kid, because one of the things about, if people aren't familiar with Cedar Key, it's not too far from Tampa, but it's definitely its own zone. Yeah. You know, you're not popping down to Tampa to go to Costco or something like that. And so this area of Florida is really special. It's one of my favorite areas, like just in general, Keaton to, Wakasasa to
still old Florida.
It's old. It's got a lot of soul. It's relatively untouched. But how does a kid go from chasing, whatever he could run into in a 14-foot john boat to thinking, oh, maybe this could be my job? Because I'm guessing that's a pretty big leap for most people around here.
So I never even knew that it could be a job, as a kid. I can remember my dad talking to a guide at the marina after we come in, it's like asking him how he did. Who is that? Oh, he's a guide. I'm like, what does a guide do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he takes people fishing. Huh. So that clicked then.
Yeah.
So, later on, you just learn something every time you're out, you just learn your way around. That's the first thing. And then you learn different spots and different areas and where the water's clear. So it's just a lot of little things,
Mm-hmm.
breadcrumbs you're picking up until you kind of figure out, okay, so they're doing this here. And then next year on your calendar, you pop up memories. Oh, I caught fish this day last year, so then maybe they're here today.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it starts.
That was a big feature for the fishing community, was the iPhone.
Yeah. Facebook memories.
Facebook memories and iPhone memories. And was there a time for you where, I think a lot of people who grow up hunting and fishing, when they find out about guides or TV hosts or whatever, they go, oh, that'd be super cool. And then by the time you're towards the end of college, I think the world around you kind of pressures you a little bit. You need to get a real job.
Exactly.
And most people at 18, unless your family's in it or you have somebody that's mentor, you don't even know where to start. What do you just put a sign up at the marina and
Yeah.
So was there a time for you that you thought about doing something else?
Well, I did other stuff. Growing up, I did concrete construction. My dad had a concrete business, so we worked, construction in Gainesville.
Mm-hmm.
And then we fish on the weekends. And then I did redfish tournaments a lot, So I was getting better at redfish, winning more, catching a lot of fish. And then, so that's when I started to guide a little bit, and then it just kind of grew. It took a long time, I learned, and it grew at the same time.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take for you to go from, okay, I'm going to get my captain's license, it's the first day, the first client, act like you've been here before, excuse me, sir, let me pull over and put my boat plug in. How do you go? How long did it take for you to go from that to,
I would say
full-time?
probably like 5 years.
Yeah. So what's your advice to people who are thinking about making that jump, or they're in that kind of in-between season where they're not full-time? I mean, what did taking your time with building your business teach you?
Well, you learn. You become a better captain. You become a better fisherman. You pick up all this stuff, and you're getting paid the whole time. Yeah, you're catching fish, and your clients are happy.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also learning a lot. Being there, more you're there, the more you're learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's time on the water. There's no replacement. Even just running from spot to spot, the stuff you're picking up on, where birds are, just where you're seeing, fish.
What did that leap look like from, your dad's got a concrete business, you're kind of working in construction? I mean, that's a stable industry. I mean, people are going to build things, and people are going to rebuild things and remodel things and repair things. In your mind, how did you go through that season of, okay, I'm going to leave this stable thing that in most scenarios has a higher ceiling of earning money?
So so I left, I was guiding, and then I started flipping houses.
Mm-hmm.
So my downtime, I was working on a flip house.
Okay.
And then the market was good, so I was making money, flipping it, and then I'd flip it into another one, and the whole and then I got to where I was too busy to do the flip. I was too busy fishing to get to the flip house. So it's just, I would rather fish than remodel house. Yeah. So that's kind of where So
you went from like a full-time job, doing a little bit of guiding, then a little part-time, and then a little. Yeah, that seems like a good progression for you. Talk to me a little bit. So I want to talk about your boat for a minute.
Yeah, everybody loves the boat.
Everybody loves the boat. I know why. We were talking about it for a minute because I think you got a really unique setup, at least unique to me, probably unique to a lot of the listeners. And, one thing that, Trey was talking about is he's like, watch what's in your pockets, because we're going to be going fast.
Yeah.
And we were going over 60 at certain times today.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff will slide out your pockets really fast,
really
be 100
fast.
yards behind the boat before you know it. You got a pretty comfortable boat. It's very fishable, low gunnels. Tell us about what the boat is. Give us a talk through.
It's a 25-foot Simmons ES custom boat, Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cat hull. It's pretty much complete walk around. I got 4 seats on the Shockwaves mounts. So those
were so valued today.
Oh, they're a game changer.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are older, middle-aged men, and they just love the seats. Everybody loves the seat, even when they bring their wife. They don't get up. They're comfort.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a machine now. It's got a 400 Mercury V10 on it.
What's the top speed? I know we hit over 60, but
I've had it 82, but right now on the setup like it is, it runs like 70. With 2 people in it, fully loaded fishing gear. But it's a fishing machine. It takes rough water real good. It floats super shallow, so I'm not really taking.
Do you know how shallow?
It'll float 8 inches easy. You'll bump if it gets if you're on hard bottom, but soft bottom, the trolling motor, it'll float less than the trolling motor will run it.
Mm-hmm.
So. It fishes really well for everything that I do, and it's really stable. There's no tippy, side to side. It's real stable, and it doesn't have that, any big steps. It's real low to the water. So
it definitely was more stable than. It looked stable, but it was more stable than I thought. And there are a couple moments today, you hook a snook, that snook tries to go under the boat or tries to do something, so you're just running down the gunnel, and you're just instincts. You're not even thinking, what if I fall? It's just your instincts are like, don't lose this fish, Yeah. And I thought it was, it's super easy to navigate. If you had to change something about it, what would it be? Not even a self-deployed trolling motor?
No, definitely not that.
Elevated.
I have a tower that's not on there now.
Okay.
That gets you up there. It goes on the console.
Does it have a second station? Can you rig up? No,
just for sight fishing.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. So you just go up there with your trolling motor.
Yeah.
Yeah, deer stand or.
Yeah.
That's the technical term for it. Is you get
a
deer stand. No, I'm kidding. That's what I've heard people call them. I don't think that's what they call them. I think that's what, fly fishing purists call them, because there's an altitude thing. It's okay to be on a pulling platform this high.
Yeah.
But once you go this high,
that's right.
Now
and you put it on the front.
You're out. You put it on the. You're out. Yeah. It's got to be on the back. It's got to be. So tell me a little bit about the range of fishing that you have and an overview of this area, because I got to see two aspects today.
Yeah, I fish from Crystal River to Osceola River, near Perry, and it ranges time of year, what's biting where. So wintertime, I'm up around Steenhatchee North, Keaton Beach, Horseshoe Beach, and then usually springtime I start coming down towards Cedar Key, Walkasassa, Swanee, and as the fish start migrating, we get a lot more species coming in, not just redfish and trout, So I'll start moving down here, just wherever the fish are. Sometimes I stay up in Steenhatchee longer because the cobia are running up there, Just something that I have more of an option, than redfish and trout, which is nothing wrong with that. Whenever that's all you have, that you make the best of that, But once the other options come available, I'm all for other options, I try to catch a slam every day, that's like the goal.
So slam, redfish, snook,
trout,
okay.
Triple tail, tarpon,
so just
cobia.
You're just going for three. You want 3 something.
Big game, something good.
Vince, I watched Vince's heart break in half on that triple tail he lost today.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's certain times it's funny because,
Well, he's been missing fish all day. So.
Yeah. Well, I can't talk. Because we started with, I had a snook that I top water version trout set.
Yeah.
And then a couple casts later, he just spit it out.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay. The first time what did I do wrong? There's a lot of ways to lose a fish. When I was a kid, I missed a deer and at Wiregrass Ranch over near Tampa. And I asked this old timer that it was his property, and he had this old gun. He had notches on it, from all the deer he had killed, and it was just, completely covered just with that gun. I said, man, like, what, if that gun could speak, what would it say? And he said, there's a lot of room around a deer. There's a lot of ways to lose a fish. We worked on, me and Vince worked on that in particular today, although Trey lost a few too. He probably never admit it, but he did. Tell me about what's your favorite thing to chase.
Whatever's biting, it's hard to pick a favorite,
So you just want a hot bite. You're not a purist on any particular thing.
I just want whatever's biting.
But not snook.
I wouldn't say they're my favorite because they don't bite all the time. They're super finicky, So I do love to catch them, and I have figured out how they like it. But
yeah, they're not always like they were today. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
they can be frustrating.
They can be frustrating. There's days we go and like what we've seen today, and not catch.
Yeah. Well, that's like one of the things that was really fun with them was, some of those bigger ones. When they jump and head shake, they look just like a tarpon, man. And I was joking bow. And I actually did bow a few times because I good practice, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably not going to hurt anything.
No.
For you, what's the biggest snook you've caught?
44, mine was right at 30 pounds.
Wow. And is there a favorite type of fishing that you like to do outside of this zone? Like, have you got a chance? You were talking about you got stranded in Cuba one time.
I went to Puerto Rico last year to catch tarpon. I like to travel. I like to catch tarpon. Like I said, whatever's
biting.
Whatever's biting. I went to Fiji one time. There was permit just everywhere. And so, I was fishing for permit.
Fiji, man, yeah.
Yeah. There was bonefish. They were so spooky you couldn't do nothing with them.
Really? Do they fly fish for bonefish and stuff? What is I know Fiji has a lot of fishing culture. So.
Yeah, it's mainly fly fish,
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful crystal clear water.
Yeah.
The fish are there,
What was the
circumstance
around you getting stranded in Cuba?
So I was doing a boat delivery with my uncle, and we were taking a 60-foot yacht to the Grand Cayman Islands, and we got it hung up in the Gulf Stream, and the current was ripping, and it was burning a lot of fuel, and we weren't really going anywhere, So it took us longer than we thought to get to that point, and we just poor planning.
Ran out of gas and you couldn't get any there?
Yeah, we didn't run out of fuel, but we didn't have enough to make it, and that was the closest spot. So we just pulled in there and tried to get fuel, and they wouldn't sell us fuel. They wouldn't deal with us at all because we were Americans. So we were.
You just kind of got a cardboard sign and anchored up, and we on the side of the road with your little gas cans.
Yeah, so being stranded, I guess there's like a maritime law, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they can't really, bother you, but you are limited, and you have to go through their loopholes. So we ended up. There was a hotel. There was a marina and a hotel. The hotel was like 2 miles. We had to walk over there to the marina, and on a phone with a phone card. And had to, dial like 20 numbers to get to the U.S. for like 2 or 3 minute phone call. And then, so we tried different things. And finally, so we figured out we'd have to get money sent to a Cuban
delegate, something.
A Cuban. And we know no one.
Yeah.
So we kind of made friends walking back and forth, And so these Cubans, they decided they were going to help us. They had people, I didn't speak Spanish. Luckily, we had a guy that could speak Spanish,
Yeah.
And they lined it up. We had to get a taxi cab, and we're 3 hours to the closest town. So the taxi cab had to drive to get us 3 hours and take us back 3 hours and drive us around. And then we met these 2 Cuban ladies, and they got it in. We took them to Western Union. They got our money. We bought us some, some supplies and stuff. And then got in the cab, went back.
Now, in all of that, did you have any time to fish?
Yeah, you could fish right there off the pier. While I was there, the locals netted an entire school of bonefish and cleaned them and distributed them to the community there.
Was that?
They cleaned everything. They had a whole school of bonefish, probably about 300 or 400.
Wow,
that was crazy.
Like, when you're sitting there under those circumstances, is there a moment that you're like, man, this is getting a little sketchy?
Oh,
like,
for sure.
What were those moments?
I mean, you just don't know, you don't know the outcome, and you can't communicate with them. So it's kind of like,
did you hold up a little bit in your hotel? I mean, because I'm guessing
on the boat.
Under those circumstances,
we
you're like,
stay on the boat and try to figure it out. So then we ended up getting fuel, and they had to siphon it out of a tank, and it was a process. It was the dirtiest fuel you ever seen. Like, this motor would clogging up fuel filters. It's terrible. But yeah, and then we finally got to Grand Caymans. And
so if anybody listening to this wants to use your boat transportation service after hearing all that,
yeah, we'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Don't look at the fuel, but we'll take it. Might get there a little late, might have a little dirty fuel, but we'll make it happen.
A little bit sit on it.
Yeah, but so with kind of your approach, one of the things that I think is really, really cool about you, and I know you and Trey are friends, getting outside the normal box of what people do. I mean, you're going to learn from traditional wisdom. Obviously, your dad took you, your grandpa took you. But talk to me a little bit about when people say, hey, kind of carve your own path in a fishery. In your mind, what does that look like?
I mean, it's just go out there and learn everything you can. Learn every grass flat, everything, every oyster bar, every creek mouth, every tide line, where the current's pushing, just different things. There's
what
so
are
much.
The important things to like try to, if let's just say that let's do a little role play here. I'm 14. I meet you. I'm like, man, I want to fish. Like, you're like, cool, man. Yeah, you need to get out there and do it. I get a little John boat. All right, so now I got my 14-foot John boat, and you're looking at me. I'm a 14-year-old kid. You got a little. I'm tugging on the heartstrings, a little nostalgia. You're gonna give me certain help and guidance, but you want me to figure things out.
Yeah.
What are the things that people need to figure out on their own, and what are some tips or advice that you would give on how to do that?
You got to start somewhere. That I don't. It's all in what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people want to live bait, some people want to fly fish, some people want to do artificial.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really figuring out what it is that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where it starts.
Would you tell somebody that, like, what's the information that you feel like you would pass to somebody?
If I was seeing a kid at the boat ramp, I would tell him, go fish the creek mouths with a redfish magic, or gold spoon or topwater plug.
So you give them some of the classics,
Yeah. I mean that's if you go you'll catch fish. I mean, that's what I would do if I wanted to catch redfish. And here there's not a spot that the redfish are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, they're there every day. There's scattered redfish everywhere. We rarely get schools. We get schools, but they're, short-lived. They come in on full moon, for 3 or 4 days, and they're gone. So you can't count on, you're going to go out and try to catch a school every day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's just a lot of fish. There's a lot of fish scattered, so it's like it's endless.
I think a lot of people's hesitation is like, let's say that I have this, we're still role playing here, as long as you can bear. And I'm in my 14-foot John boat. I'm like floating around, I'm popping a cork, I'm throwing a spoon, whatever. I find some fish. I catch a couple fish. I'm out there 5 or 6 hours. I catch 4 or 5 fish. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. I'm pretty proud of myself. And then now it's time for me to go somewhere else. But I'm like, there's that thing in everybody. It's like, you know, and I go back to the same spot and then I catch 2. I'm like, oh, dang. I go there and then I get skunked. And then I catch another 4 fish and then I catch 2 and then I get skunked. And it's like, and then you start feeling that tug of like, I gotta widen my horizons.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you only have so many days, it's hard to go past that spot.
A lot of long days, you know.
So how do you deal with discouragement? What advice would you
fishing,
give them?
You know, it's fishing.
Yeah.
They just don't bite on certain days.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing their own thing. Sometimes it don't matter if you do everything right, you're still not going to catch them.
When you look at all the people that shaped you as a kid, what do you feel like were some of the important lessons that were kind of passed to you from your dad, grandpa, other people?
So my dad told me one time, he says, you got to think about what your bait looks like in the water. And while you're thinking about what it looks like, anticipate a fish hitting it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that changed everything. You don't just sling it out there and reel it in, you know?
Yeah.
Every bait is different, you know?
Yeah, swimming, subsurface.
Yeah. And then
little tiny bounces.
You know, you pick up little tips from people all the time, you know? Just, you'll fish with somebody, he says, oh, you know, I catch them like this. I catch them jigging like this. I catch them, you know, pulling it like this. And I like to do, you know, twitch, pause. It's, everybody has something that a little bit of information, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you just learn from every little aspect of it. You know, you may meet somebody at the boat ramp and say, oh man, we caught them right over here on these chartreuse, you know, jig.
Yeah, take it in.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll buy some of that. Yeah, next time you go, they're hitting on the same thing, you know? So it's constantly picking up little, you know, nuggets.
Well, I feel like, you know, with the guides that I'm around, a lot of the guys who are really good, people from the outside looking in might not say that they're good at networking, but I learned that they're good at networking. They might have a small network, they might have a selective network, they might have, even within their network, they might not. I'm not saying that they share everything, but I've learned, you know, those guys are learning from each other, communicating with each other, and then as I've traveled, you know, today we're catching these snook on, you know, spin tackle, and then all of a sudden, you know, me and Trey kind of start thinking, all right, well, how would this transfer to fly? How could we do this? And then we start getting out super glue and we're kind of MacGyvering some stuff together on flies, and then we're all talking about because you're like, well, we know what works.
Yeah. So
how do you transfer that
over?
Fly
do that.
Yeah. So you got to make the fly back to make what does your bait look like?
Yeah.
Or your fly doesn't look like. And even with all the little rigging and between me and Trey's boxes today, we didn't have anything that was anything like that, you know, and I think that's kind of a cool principle.
Could definitely be done.
Oh, it definitely, there's a way, there's some obstacles, but there's definitely a way. And I think that's kind of, to me, that's kind of fun. That's how innovation gets made outside of the saltwater world. Let's even say outside of the world that you're in, which, you know, obviously you had a background in redfish, tournament fishing, but you know, airboat, for the guys who do the airboat, low tide airboat stuff and the holes, and the guys who do cast net stuff. And we were talking about floundering when I was in high school. I'd go out and flounder. And you learn some things when you turn the lights on at night and you go around. You can't gig a redfish, but you go, okay.
There they are.
There's one. There's a bunch. Why are they sitting there? I didn't know they did that. You know, so you're picking together all those pieces. For you, what were some of the things outside of the world that you fish in now that you felt like were really influential to you?
I mean, I don't know, just being able to go, you know.
Did you pick up like, I don't know, did you feel like when you look at the bass world, because I feel like the bass world's pretty, today you were like, I'm like, where I cast? You go fan cast.
Yeah.
I think the bass, like,
you
I think
learn how to
I think the
fish.
bass world.
Yeah, I fish a lot of artificial, so bass fishing, it come from bass fishing, throwing rubber worms in the pond, you know. We grew up on Long Pond in Chiefland, and we go out there, you know. they didn't have nowhere to go. So we ride our bicycle down there and throw it off the bank, and you just, you catch them. Little ponds all over,
Were there certain guys you looked up to, books, TV, anything like that?
Not really, just my dad,
Yeah. Tell me about that. I mean, what?
Yeah, he was just out there, He learned from his dad just the spots,
What type of boat did he have when you were growing up?
He had a 20-foot shoal water.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the big pointy bows. It had a tunnel in it. A 130 Yamaha, So it would run shallow. And I remember getting seasick in that thing. We went out Spanish mackerel fishing, and just at the rollers. And I was in the console.
Mm-hmm.
So it was bad. We got into some nasty weather, and it got nasty. But yeah, we were just fishing all the time. And my dad would catch tarpon, just kind of seeing what was happening as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So
when you first started guiding, did you go for whatever was biting, or did you kind of start in one species or one style and then expand?
Yeah, so I started, but just same thing: redfish, trout, triple tails, cobia. As I guided more, I learned more.
How did you mix your time with your clients, and tell me the difference between a day with the clients and a day you going out on your own?
So,
that's kind of an interesting thing.
If I go out on my own, I'm not going to go where I know I'm going to catch fish. I'm going to go with it to all the stuff that I think there may be some fish here. I'll go look, or I've been wanting to go check this out.
Do you use a lot of Google Earth? What's that process like?
You use Google Earth. I have it on my chart plotter, so you can see it all. But it's mostly time on the water. You know, when you're fishing with clients and you see something, you're like, I want to check that out better later.
That whole world, and I know you're a big electronics guy, but that whole world, happened really fast. Because when I was in high school, I also duck hunted, and I remember we would use Google Earth, but nobody I think my mom had a laptop with her state job, but people didn't really have laptops, right? So you go on there, you'd look at these maps, and then you try to give yourself little I remember writing down you go about this far, and then you're looking for this big water oak, or you're looking at these different things. And I had a little Garmin. Remember those old Garmin handhelds that basically were just lines? And you'd be trying to, I had one that wasn't even backlit, so you'd be out there trying to get to a duck spot, and you were just freaking if I was settling here, my navigation skills without that help, not super good. It'd take me about 5 or 6 times to actually find the spot sometimes with certain things. But
I had one of those too.
A little handheld. I hope so. You being a kid going out 2 or 3 miles, you can get swept up and look up to the shore and be like, I don't know where that is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you ever get lost out here?
Oh yeah. One time we were out offshore, and we were coming in and we seen some channel markers, so just went to them, went on in. Hold on, these are the wrong channel markers.
Yeah.
So, we were down in Crystal River.
You call your dad?
No, we just
came out,
ran the shoreline back this way.
You ever so you had that 5 o'clock curfew? You ever miss it and make your parents all nervous? No, you always. Yeah. Even with
they would miss it and make me nervous.
Oh.
They'd be late. 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I had a couple little stories when I was younger growing up, made my mom nervous. And my dad, before my dad was a fishing guide, he worked for Fish and Wildlife Commission, and so he just kind of, every bad thing that happened, he knew about. That's kind of the dark side to that job, is every kid that drowned, every kid that gets propped, every all that stuff.
Snake bites.
He knows snake bites, or a lot of it too is stuff that like we talked about. You got a 9 horsepower motor, but you get propped. That's a laceration. Yeah. And if you don't know how to use a tourniquet, or you don't, and when you're 16 too, you don't know how you're going to respond to stress. You don't. There's a lot of factors to that. But what do you feel like, as we kind of wrap up our conversation, and I'm sure we'll get opportunities, hopefully, to fish more.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I didn't lose too many fish today. But if you were given advice to the next generation of guides, because I like interviewing people in your season, because you've been guiding for 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
Something in that zone. Yeah. You're kind of in that middle brother zone. Yeah. You know, you're not new, but you're not 35 years in. And
yeah.
But when you look at this next generation of guides, or let's just expand it beyond, you know, redfish tournament guys, fishing guides, kids who just love going out and fishing, what do you feel like in this world that everything, you know, technology is changing, social media is changing, there's just so much, what advice would you give them?
I mean, spend as much time on the water as possible. You know, that's what's going to make you better. That's the only way you're going to get better.
What are the big pitfalls that maybe you've seen the next generation fall into?
Just get hung up doing the same thing every time. You know, just the fish are always doing something different. You know what I mean? You can't do the same thing you do in January and July. You know what I mean? And I think that's what a lot of fishermen think. You know, oh, I went. This is my spot. This is my spot. You know, we're gonna go down this shoreline. This is where I catch them. You know, something. You know, just. You got to go exploring. You know, there's a lot of times that I was lost, you know, didn't know how I was going to get out, or had to get out, drag the boat, and, you know, get hung in a low tide, spent the night, you know. That's all part of learning, you know. When you're out there stuck, you may find fish. Or you may learn where the drop-off is. Like, oh, here's the drop-off. Oh, there's fish in here, you know what I mean, while you're sitting there waiting on the tide to come back in. So you just learn all kinds of stuff, you know, just being out there. There's no other way to learn. There's no, you know.
I think that's as I look at my own temptations, and, you know, I'm younger than you, but, you know, obviously I'm old to some people, I guess. I'm 31, but, you know, with social media and stuff, and I'm not a social media hater. Obviously I use social media, but it can sometimes make you less okay with.
Yeah, well, social media is
getting skunked, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you only see what they caught. You know what I mean? You know, you only see the good. You don't see the struggles. You don't see how they fished 8 hours or 10 hours, 12 hours to catch, you know, what they caught.
Maybe we should start a movement. Yeah. Only post when you don't catch fish. You know, just you holding like a little plush skunk.
Or like a big bird nest like you had in your fly line.
That happened very fast. That was, you witnessed my most impressive. Yeah. I was like, you know, casting in one back cast, I was crosswind, but in one back cast, I mean, how long did that take me? 3 minutes? Yeah. I'm not going to win any contest on untangling things, but I can do it myself.
Yeah, it came out.
I mean, it came out, but it was pretty extensive.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it was one of those things where I made a couple, it's like a Rubik's Cube. You think you're doing the right thing, but you zigged and you should have zagged, and you made it worse. But it looked like you were doing something.
You probably could have shook it, and it would just come
probably.
out.
I mean, because I've had those moments where your fly line. I mean, you know, your fly line. You look down, or you look back, and you go, "Oh my gosh, this is about to." And then you just like, well, let me just kind of, and then it just all works out. Yeah. And then you have a cast like today where it's like, and I was joking because, you know, I was just kind of playing around, and I was like, usually something like that doesn't happen until there's a fish in sight, you know, and then you're like, sorry.
It happened at an event. He had a tip wrap, and his bait was just out there.
Yeah.
And then while he's trying to get it, a fish hit it, and was like, I'm going to break the rod, you know.
Yeah.
It come out.
Hey, sometimes it works out, man, but a lot of fun to be here. A lot of just, I appreciate just getting a chance to see this place.
Yeah.
And we're going to go get some dinner tonight. Cedar Keys, you know, we talked about that. I don't know if it's proper to say downtown
Dock
or whatever, Dock Street.
Yeah.
But we're gonna eat. You know, what's your favorite restaurant? Maybe someone come.
My favorite is 83 West.
Is that where we're going?
I don't think they're open today.
That's the thing.
Steamers.
That's the thing with rural Florida.
Yeah,
most times it's Mondays though.
Yeah.
People are like, where are we gonna eat on Monday?
They're actually open on Monday.
Huh? So Thursday's their day off.
Well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Oh dang. Yeah. But man, cool place. I highly encourage people, come check it out. Come fish with Matt. Come catch your biggest snook. Maybe.
You know. You got your biggest snook.
I got my top 3. Yeah. Well, how many I catch? 4 or 5? I got my top 5 biggest snook with you. So, Man, really grateful for it. A lot of fun, dude. Love what you're doing, and appreciate it. Look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, man, me too.